Welcome back to Adversary, a Campfire Story, a four-part miniseries. I'm the author, Jered Gering, and I'm excited to read to you the finale, Episode 4. Episode 4, The Hubris. Aiden breathed in the brisk mountain air and looked at his dad in disbelief. Sweat drenched his forehead, and he was breathing heavily. But Dad should be used to this, Aiden thought, considering how his dad had told him he used to walk to school uphill both ways. When Aiden had told him that sounded impossible, his dad had said the walkways were one way only and he had to take a different route home. Still, his dad should be handling this hike like a professional, not breathing hard and sweating like the kids. At least he's doing a better job than Timmy's dad. Frank looked like he'd been swimming. He trudged at least 15 feet behind the last tread scout. Aiden's dad, Travis, and all the other adults had shaken the tents and pulled everyone out of bed while it was still dark. It's time for a tread scout camping tradition, the sunrise hike. Apparently, all tread scout camping trips across the nation had at least one sunrise hike. The goal was to reach the top of the mountain before dawn. They'd stopped for a rest break after hiking for 30 whole minutes, and Aiden thought for sure they were going to miss sunrise. He hadn't seen the sun yet, but it was light outside now, and he could see everything really well. While they rested, Aiden wanted to ask Dad about the walking uphill both ways thing, but both of them were breathing too hard to say anything. Right when Aiden started drinking some water out of his camelback, one of the older boys approached. His name was Barnett, and he was 5.5 feet tall. He had shoulder-length brown hair, a deep voice that sometimes cracked, and a couple dozen pimples. Aiden's parents thought Barnett's parents were eccentric, but Aiden didn't know if that was good or bad. He just knew the boy liked being called Bear, which would make any kid popular among a scouting troop. Bear squeaked, "Commander Travis!" He cleared his throat. "Yes, Bear," Aiden's dad responded. "You've led us so well during this whole trip. I'm impressed. All the kids look up to you, and I can tell the adults do too. You're such a good leader, and you explain things so well. I've never gone camping with the tents being set up so fast, not to mention how you're letting us help with the cooking. It's really inspiring to be part of your troop." "Thanks, Bear." "You've done such a good job, you really deserve a break. I was wondering, I was thinking maybe you could take a break, hang out with Frank for a while. I can lead the troop for a bit." Travis chuckled. "That's not really necessary, Bear. I know you have it handled, sir. I just thought it'd be good for you to have a break. Then you can maybe sign a form for my school. I'm taking a leadership/student government class in the fall, and a summer prerequisite is to have 1,000 minutes of volunteer experience. But the minutes count double if I'm doing something related to leadership. I think this would be such a good experience for me and the other campers and—" "Bear," said Travis. "My answer is no. You attended this trip as a scout. You paid for this trip. You can volunteer at the church's soup kitchen when we get home." "But everyone, listen up!" Travis yelled. "We're over halfway. I've been to the top before, and it's not much farther. Follow the trail and don't stop. When you reach the top, you'll see the sun. Let's go!" He took off in almost a run, and Aiden followed close behind with a new burst of energy. New sweat came pretty quickly, but Aiden pushed through and stayed with his dad. Bear followed close behind and encouraged the other campers, apparently not deflated by Travis's refusal. In only 12 minutes and 42 seconds, according to Aiden's watch, they reached the top. The path led them to a crest, and reaching that height, Aiden saw a huge clearing. A couple of other groups populated the clearing, especially closer to the opposite edge of the rise where the view was most majestic. Pretty mountains bathed in pink morning light. In the distance down the hill, the sun had barely cleared the line of trees on the horizon. A giant wooden cross stuck up out of the ground in the middle of the clearing. A few people were standing there taking pictures. In another part of the clearing off to the right stood a fire pit. There was already a fire blazing this early in the morning, but Aiden didn't see anyone around it. Travis beckoned everyone to the cross. and started talking about the history of the campground and how the original owners of the land put this cross here as a reminder of what Jesus did, and how even when they sold the land, they demanded the cross stay in its spot and that it could not be removed unless it got struck by lightning. He talked about how the hike was hard, but imagine how hard it was for Jesus to carry his cross to Golgotha, translated Skull Hill, which Aiden thought sounded like the name of a rock band. That's a way cooler band name than Skillet. Just when he got to the part about Jesus enduring the cross for the joy set before him, Timmy yelled, "Look, over at the fire pit!" Baronet squeaked, "Mr. Grizzly!" Indeed, the fire pit, where Aiden had seen no one earlier, now had Mr. Grizzly adding a log to the central teepee. His coonskin cap seemed to glimmer in the dawn light. All the kids rushed to the fire pit. Travis shook his head with a smile and joined the crowd. "Mr. Grizzly, I didn't think we'd see you again," said Bear. Aiden had felt this would happen before the end of the trip, but he wasn't about to tell Bear that. "Tread Scouts, welcome to my fire," he said, his voice low and crisp like the morning air. Timmy said, "Is this your campsite?" No, I just like to make a fire here. Some mornings, with the cross and the view, it doesn't get much better than this." The fire pit had no metal frame like the other fire pits, just a ring of rocks. Mr. Grizzly just made it himself. The camp managers probably had no idea this campfire was even here, which made it 150 times cooler. Bear said, "Mr. Grizzly, sir, I was wondering, why was the devil trying all this stuff with Jesus? Didn't he know it'd be a waste of time?" Timmy chimed in, "Yeah, Satan's pretty dumb if you ask me." "Well, men, the devil has a pretty serious medical condition. It's called hubris." "What's that?" everyone asked at once. "It's pride, but not the lying kind. It's the kind of pride that makes people feel untouchable, invulnerable, like there's nothing that can ever stop them." One of the other kids said, "My mom says I'm unstoppable when I play soccer." Mr. Grizzly said, "Are you confident in your soccer skills?" He nodded. "Well, hubris is the kind of confidence that says, I can beat all the professional soccer players all by myself." The devil convinced himself that he could actually get the better of God. He thought humans were weak, and he thought himself better than all the people God made in his own image. "What a stupid head," said Timmy. "Mr. Grizzly," Aiden said, "you left us on a bit of a cliffhanger yesterday. Or a temple hanger. Can you finish the story?" Yes, let's get right to it. Once upon a time, there was an angel. He gleamed with the light of his maker, and everything he did glorified God Most High. Every word he spoke brought worship to the author of life. His reverent venerations ascribed honor, glory, and might to the one who sits on the throne. Somewhere along the way, nobody but God alone knows exactly when or how or why, his worship turned inward. He called himself the bright morning star, ignoring the fact that all his brightness came from the glorious light maker. All radiance comes from the king with fire in his eyes, but this angel, who calls himself Lucifer, decided the glory belonged to himself. He wanted worship. He began higher than most, but he wanted to be above the Most High. He climbed higher and higher to set himself a throne, but the higher he flew, the further up the Most High appeared to be. His rise turned into a fall. Instead of exalting himself above the image bearers on earth, he fell to the earth like lightning. He prowled like a lion, burned like a fire, and slithered like a snake, setting himself against the King of Kings. He thought, "I will still rise above all in the heavens. First I will grow in strength and might here on earth." The serpent deceived man and woman in the garden. The weak image bearers had been given authority to rule the world. But with the embrace of sin and the knowledge of good and evil casting judgment upon their naked, guilty existence, their dominion of the world slipped from their mortal grasp. Lucifer said, "Their dominion is now mine." As God worked his plans from the heavens above, Satan, the accuser of man, worked his own plans from the earth below. He did everything in his power to undermine the image bearers whom he hated. He works to sabotage the work of his maker, whom he despised. All of his work and resistance led to this moment. Lucifer, in the appearance of an armored king standing on the temple wall facing Yeshua, the weak, almost starved Son of God. This weak, almost starved Son of God had yet to prove himself or take the bait of any of Satan's tests. But this Satan, who called himself Lucifer, had one more challenge. With an irrefutable offer, he would prove the weakness of man and exalt himself to the heavens. Nobody, not even the big fire above, would be able to stop him from taking his throne and receiving all the glory. Lucifer faced Yeshua, the gaunt, famished man, who stood tall and confident. His eyes seemed to flicker with fire. Lucifer stood with his shadow sword drawn. "Come, Son of Man." He pointed the sword above them and swirled the point in a spiral pattern which cut a new portal into the sky, this one round and opaque. The surface of the portal glowed with a midnight blue hue in contrast with the daylight around them, and the portal's face rippled like ocean waves. Lucifer sheathed his sword and raised his hands to the sky just below the portal. He pulled with both hands as if he held invisible ropes, and as he pulled, the dark surface opened, and they could see the rocky side of a mountain face. "Come," Lucifer said. Yeshua chuckled. "I will not be turning the cliff rocks into bread, nor will I be jumping off a cliff. I have something else in mind, something for you to see." Lucifer leapt into the sky portal and landed on the rocks. Gravity shifted in the new location, but Lucifer calmly grabbed a hold of the rocks jutting from the cliff. He looked over his shoulder through the portal where Yeshua still stood. "Come, Son of Man, take care. You enter the gateway upwards and exit sideways." "I can see." Yeshua's leap was surprisingly spry. It reminded Lucifer of a wingless locust. The sun landed just below his adversary, and he clung to the cliff with little difficulty. The climb to the top of the cliff took only a few minutes. Yeshua had climbed carefully and deliberately. He showed no signs of falling, but when he reached the top, his body shook, and he appeared winded. It was a few more minutes before the weak man could stand. Lucifer had taken them to a mountain top, as near the summit as one could get and still stand and breathe. The ground was barren, for no plant could live at this elevation. The wind blew with bitter cold gusts, and the sun shivered. "Son of Man, take a look." Lucifer gestured to the view below, out from the cliff they'd just climbed. He could see the tree line below, the forest wrinkled with rolling hills, threaded with river streams. Yeshua said nothing. Lucifer drew his sword once more, and he flicked the tip through the air in different patterns, as if he were drawing a picture. The mountains, hills, and valleys below shimmered and shifted as the devil wove together his supernatural display. The forest appeared to collapse, and the hills folded in on each other, and the entire landscape seemed to retract into the ground. Then a lake, the shape of the Sea of Galilee, popped out, and all the villages surrounding it. One of the towns grew bigger and seemed to float in front of Yeshua just out of reach. Nazareth, his home. Other towns swept by their vision, as did the Jordan River. Then towns in Judea also floated across for Yeshua to see. The towns, people, and buildings appeared real enough that one could almost reach out and touch them. Then the temple they'd just been standing on also appeared, and with it the whole city of Jerusalem. Parts of the city sat in the valley below, but other parts rose to the sky and zoomed to where Lucifer and the sun stood, spinning and shifting for him to examine. Next came King Herod's palace in Jerusalem. The landscape shifted again to the ornate architecture of Rome. Though Yeshua hadn't been there, Lucifer knew he would recognize the seat of the empire. Besides the roads and buildings, they saw a man who was obviously Caesar. The vision twisted and reformed into a place Yeshua had been before. Egypt. Pyramids now dotted the landscape, and the great Sphinx could be seen in the distance. Lucifer steered the vision to the south, where they saw the great merchant city of Aksum, filled with the trading of ivory and gold. Next, Lucifer showed the sun the city of Petra, the mighty fortress of the desert-dwelling Nabateans. The vision moved to Parthia and beyond to other lands in the east. They saw Serica, the land of silk, a vast region ruled by the impressive Han dynasty. Lucifer pushed the vision even further across the vast ocean beyond the east to a land unknown by most. Yeshua saw pyramids of different shapes and people beyond the reach of Rome or any other empire. The vision moved all over the world, and with it Lucifer paraded people of civilizations great and small in front of the eyes of Yeshua. To end the journey, Lucifer brought the city of Caesarea Philippi before the sun's eyes. The city was well within the Roman Empire and not too far from Galilee. Yeshua could travel there himself if he so chose. The city was an infamous center of pagan worship, but the most offensive perverted acts took place within the city at the mouth of a cave called the Gates of Hades. Lucifer scaled back the vision and populated it with a mix of all the cities and people he'd shown Yeshua to create an overwhelming landscape bursting with representatives of all cultures and nations across the entire world, and he froze the vision in place. Lucifer protracted his wings from their hiding spot, and he flew out off the cave's edge a little above Yeshua. Son of man, this world is my domain. I've ruled the earth since sin entered it. The world is full of might and glory, and now you've seen its extent. You've seen what man can do, and you've seen how I rule them. Yeshua said nothing. Ironic, all I have is all you ever wanted. Lucifer shifted his form so that his dark armor melted and a shining golden armor glowed in its place. He bathed the mountain in his light, so much that he wondered if Yeshua's eyes would be damaged. Behold my glory! Yeshua remained silent, eyes squinting at the brightness. Look again, Son of Man. Look at all the kingdoms of the world. Look at the ones who bear your image. Look! Yeshua still said nothing. All these things I will give to you if you fall down and worship me. Yeshua said, Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Suddenly the skies filled with warrior angels who'd been hiding just out of sight around the mountain. The sky darkened with a thick black cloud, and Lucifer heard the same thundering voice that spoke at Yeshua's baptism. This is my son in whom I am well pleased. At that last word, lightning zapped Lucifer's gleaming armor, singed his wing feathers, and smacked him out of the sky. He landed on the rock near the tree line below, the army of angels heading his way, some brandishing swords, others preparing bows with arrows. The adversary couldn't fly yet, his wings spasming from the lightning. He scurried to his feet and ran down the mountain as fast as he could. He sensed the flying arrows and had to keep ducking, sliding, and sidestepping to avoid being hit. He couldn't see Yeshua anywhere, but his voice resounded in his ears with words from the book of Proverbs. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the wind in his fists? Who has wrapped up the waters in a garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name and what is his son's name? Surely you know. Lucifer spun to see if Yeshua was there, but all he could see were the circling angels diving closer, raining projectiles upon him. His wings were starting to work again, so he used them to float, jump, and twist in the air more effectively around the attacks, but he could not fully fly yet. He dashed further down the mountain, and the clouds grew even darker. Lightning struck the ground ahead of him and behind him. The thundering voice of Yahweh, the Father, filled Lucifer's senses with the words of the second psalm. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. Angels landed on the ground ahead of the accuser, and they began to shoot. He drew his shadow sword and batted away each bolt, even as they increased and rained all around. The voice thundered, He who sits in heaven shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision. He shall speak to them in his wrath, and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. One of the warring angels charged with a sword, and Lucifer yelped and locked into a duel with him, blocking, stabbing, and slashing. Yeshua's voice rang down the mountain. I will declare the decree the Lord has said to me. The Father's voice continued. You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. More angels joined the fray. Lucifer injured many, but more flew in to present a new challenge. With the shadow sword, he kept trying to pull away and create a new portal, but the angels kept blocking his sword. Yeshua's voice roared like the waters of a cascading waterfall, and it echoed around and within Lucifer in a cacophony that left him no choice but to scream. Now, therefore, be wise, O kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are those who put their trust in him. The voice ceased, and immediately the echoes faded. Lucifer found himself curled up against a boulder in the fetal position. He stood, brushed himself off, and looked around for his attackers. Only one angel remained, 20 paces away, sword drawn. He recognized him from the ancient time before time, when the angelic beings were fashioned. Lucifer said, Where are your comrades, Zigiel? Zigiel's voice was melodious. They've been ordered back to serve their commander. I'm here to observe your escape and to ensure that you leave the sun's vicinity for a time. Lucifer flicked out a triangular pattern with a sword and created a portal writhing with dark shades of green. Zigiel spoke. I know your traitorous thoughts, and I've been given eyes to see them, ears to hear them from afar. You are the deceiver, but you have deceived yourself most of all. Lucifer pulled his arms back, connecting the portal to his destination. Your only hope is to bow at his feet and kiss the sun. He looked at the angel. My only mistake was striking too soon. I will burn brighter than 10,000 suns, and I will rise victorious. The one who made the universe will snuff you out with a breath. Lucifer ignored the remark and stepped through his portal to the city of Caesarea Philippi. The end. Timmy said, Are you sure? Mr. Grizzly chuckled. That nasty old devil wasn't sure. He continued to fight in his own way. But in my opinion, this was the most important battle. This is where he really lost. Aiden pointed to the large wooden cross. Isn't that the most important? You are right, young man. What was won on the cross is the most important victory of all. Still, Jesus wouldn't have been able to win that victory had he lost this battle to the adversary. For a moment, the kids just looked at the cross in wonder. Aiden thought about how Jesus died on the cross and how he rose again on the third day. He thought about Mr. Grizzly's story and how good it is that Jesus didn't fall into the devil's temptation. If he'd gotten into the habit of making bread for himself whenever he was hungry, could Jesus have been ready to face the discomfort of the cross? If he jumped off the temple and let the angels rescue him to show the world his godliness, would he have then relied on the angels to rescue him from the pain of the cross? And if he'd worshipped Lucifer, everything would have been ruined. He suddenly realized why his dad told Bear no. It's silly that a scout thought he could demand to lead where he'd never gone, but it's outright ridiculous that the devil thought he could demand worship like God. Aiden also realized why submitting to the Father's will was the wisest thing Jesus could have done, and that's exactly what he did. Aiden was suddenly happy that his dad dragged him out of the sleeping bag for an early morning hike. He was happy he went through the whole ropes course forward and not backward, with his dad coaching him at every step. He was happy he used Frank's metal roasting sticks instead of the ones he collected by himself. He was especially happy that the campfire burned within its boundaries and didn't turn wild. Looking at the cross, he prayed in his head, "Dear Jesus, I want to be bright, but I don't want to be wild. Help me to be strong like you, always confident and willing to do the right thing, even when it's hard. Amen." Aiden turned back to the campfire, but Mr. Grizzly was gone. "Where's Mr. Grizzly?" The kids looked around, but the mountain man was nowhere in sight. "Frank, what's wrong?" called Travis. During the story, Frank's phone had regained its signal, and it wouldn't stop making noises. He'd stepped away and had been standing across the clearing near the viewpoint. Now he walked toward them with a pale face. Aiden said, "I think he's sick, Dad." Frank stepped up to Travis and spoke in a loud whisper. I had several missed calls and voicemail messages from Pastor B and a man named Jim." Travis whispered, "Who's Jim?" "He was supposed to be our mountain man guest, but some sort of car trouble made it so he couldn't make it on time." "What?" "He's arriving today at noon and can only stay one night, but he's excited to be in costume and tell the kids some stories around the campfire, and he said he'd help us pack up in the morning for the end of the trip." Travis said, "You mean Mr. Grizzly wasn't the surprise guest?" "I don't know who Mr. Grizzly is, but he's nobody connected to us. I'm going to give that creep a piece of my mind. Where is he?" "He's gone. Ran off when we weren't looking." Frank huffed. "I'm gonna look. Who does that vagabond think he is, a stranger with a group of boys he doesn't even know?" Frank marched to the edge of the hill and scanned the landscape. The other kids started looking too, but Aiden stayed at the fire and laughed. Mr. Grizzly's words from the story played again in Aiden's mind. "I know your traitorous thoughts have been given eyes to see them and ears to hear them from afar." The truth hit him in the gut, and he couldn't keep the laughs inside. It all made sense. How he knew the stories, why he said he used to call Jesus by that name, why he always appeared at the right time, how he got away from the fire so quickly. He didn't think anyone else had put it together. He was surprised it dawned on him at all, but Aiden was certain that the story wasn't just a story, and Mr. Grizzly wasn't just a mountain man. He was an angel, and his real name was Zigiel. End of episode 4.